All right, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Marla Billinghurst, and I will be chairing the panel this afternoon. Sorry. With me on the panel is Ms. Gail Anderson and Ms. Diane Knight. Representing the assessment department for the city of Winnipeg is Mr. Jonathan Spacek, and the administrative personnel today is Mr. Tristan Breeden. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today, and the session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the record. We will be hearing item 6 on our docket today. Mr. Breeden, please affirm the assessor's and the applicant's testimony.
Of course. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Jonathan Spacek.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Grayson Sharples.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, before we begin, there is one matter on the docket that we are hearing, number 6, 717 Harrow Street in Winnipeg. Mr. Sharples, you have that you are appealing liability, taxation, amount of assessed value, and classification of property?
Yeah, we will be withdrawing the class and liability. Have we not submitted that form yet?
I do not have record of that form as of right now.
Okay, we'll get that done and submitted right away.
Okay, thank you. So today we'll just be dealing with the amount of assessed value then?
Yeah, that is correct.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that before we started. All right, Mr. Spacek, please proceed when you are ready.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. We are looking at file number 24-477. This is roll number 1209-7804-270. As stated before, 717 Harrow Street. We have a 2025 assessed value of $948,000. Today we are looking at a dental office located just north of Jubilee on Harrow, which is right beside Pembina, before the underpass. It was actually built in 2003. 2003. It's 3,000 square feet of leasable area in the property. And if we turn to page 2 and 3, you'll get a better idea what we're talking about. There is a aerial view showing us the corner of a triangular lot the property is built on. Again, same owner as the property next door, but it is on a separate roll number and has a separate title. So again, we have this split up as a separate parcel. You will see at the bottom of page 3 some of the parking situations for it, just with the street view, how it looks. But again, standard dental clinic built in 2003. If we turn to page 5, you'll see some of the comparables I have for this property. So I've this property has a modeled rent of $20.13, and I've just included some medical offices around the city. You'll see some are newer, some are older, but there is a wide range of medical needs across the city where the rental rates for net rents are, I've shown just some, but they're ranging from $19 up to $26. You can see it's, there's an obvious demand for properties like this. You can see comparable number 1 is 1305 Leela, built 2006, 5-year lease signed in 2018 for 1,600 square feet at $20.92. And, and even if you go and look down to comparable number 9, you have 2077 Pembina. This is a 1985 built, 10-year lease signed in 2020, 1,430 square feet at $25 a square foot. And you'll even notice I've included comparable 12 and 14. This is 1721 Portage, but these are larger, 4,800 square feet and 4,900 square feet. And these are leases, newer building 2017, but the leases in place are $25 and $26. Again, if you look at page 6, you will see the income approach for this property. So how that 2025 assessed value is being determined. We have 3,000 square feet at $20.13. Our OFM parameters for the cycle are 5.5% vacancy loss, 3% expenses, $8 shortfall, and a 5.7% capitalization rate. This gives you the total value of $948,000. And as I stated, that $20.13, again, definitely within market for rental rate. And you'll see this property is fully occupied. If we turn to, I've included the mailer for this property, but if everybody could just turn to page 16, you'll notice the Dental Corp Health Services Limited and Mel McMahon. So this is a lease in place for this property. And they're paying a current market rent or a current net rent for this property of $25 a square foot. So our model is undershooting the actual rent in place by $5. And again, combined with a vacancy loss of 5.5%, whereas, there's really no vacancy for this property, but they get to experience that as well. And an overall capitalization rate of 5.7% gives us that total value of $948,000, which I believe, combined with the actuals in place and what our model has given this property is more than fair. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sharples, do you have any questions for Mr. Spatrick?
Just a couple. Thank you, Madam Chair. The first one was just on the rent comparables on page 5. You don't have the operating costs for any of these leases, do you?
Not in front of me, no.
Okay. And then just on the cap rate table on page 8, so there's no medical dental listed. Would you agree that the assessed cap rate is below everything that's been reported by third-party providers for office?
For a suburban, for office properties for sure. From my understanding, there is no ranges put together by Colliers, CBRE, or Cushman Wakefield to show.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions?
Just further to the questions regarding the cap rate on your page 8, what line would I look to for the cap rate of 5.7? Where does the model draw it from?
Yeah, it's nothing from on this list. There's no
category.
We're in the office portion when we're talking about, the commercial properties I represent. From my understanding of this list is we're putting R for downtown A, downtown B, suburban A, suburban B. We are putting ours to show what other providers are showing for their studies. So when there's not one to compare it to, we don't put one. And that's what I've come to understand this chart as. So when we're talking about properties that aren't on the chart, there's nothing to compare it to, because Colliers, CBRE, and Cushman Wakefield, they don't put out a list for OFMs. So I can't point you to one because there's nothing for us to compare it to, if that makes sense. As opposed to me trying to say there's one it's coming from on here, it's not. This is more of a comparison chart to show how we're comparing to other people that do similar work to we do.
Okay, so what evidence do you have to support the cap rate of 5.7?
I don't have any direct evidence.
Okay, so it's all model.
It's just model driven. Yes, absolutely. It has not been adjusted. It's just this is our standard OFM cap rate for a building built at this age, for this size, and in this location is the best way I can put it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for your presentation. Those are all my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
Yeah, on page 16, where it says only 717 Harrow, that's going from the 16th of April 2023. Is that correct?
That's that step up, but the original lease was signed in 2013.
Okay, so what was the rent prior to 2023? Aren't we only looking at till April 1st, 2023?
Well, this lease was already signed in April 13. It's just a step up for.
Oh, okay,
I got what I mean. Like all these step ups would be known ahead of time.
Okay.
If it's a lease signed in 2013.
Okay.
With a step up every 5 years, it goes up a predetermined amount, or down, or whatever they decided on.
Whatever they've decided. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have no questions. So, Mr. Sharples, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll begin on page 3 of our submission. So again, just very quickly, it's a subject property is a 3,000 square foot medical office. It has an assessed year built of 2003. It's currently assessed at 948,000, and we're requesting that the board consider reducing this to 854,000. On pages 4 and 5, we just have the income valuation breakdown that we receive. And page 6, sorry, we have a summary of our request. So the left column of this table is the current assessment. The right is what we're requesting, with the two highlighted cells being the changes we're requesting. So we are requesting operating costs of $11.66 per square foot. And we're requesting an increase to the capitalization rate from that 5.7 up to 6.25%. And from that, that's how we've calculated our request of 854,000. On page 7, it's just the assessment map and a satellite image of the property, and some street view photos on page 8. On page 9, we begin our evaluation. So usually the first thing we do in looking at these is we pull comparable sales to try to see how the assessment stacks up. So on a per square foot basis, the current assessment for this property is $316 per square foot. We've tried to pull sales of newer medical office properties, and based on that, we found values that range all the way from about $120 to $335 per square foot. From that, we get an average of about 240. And so from this, initially, we thought that the current assessment was too high. And so a few notes on some of these. The top 3 we would say are probably our best comparables. They are bigger than the subject, but they all have similar year of construction from 2000 to 2004. 940 Sherbrooke Street is a little bit older, and this one was quite a bit lower at the 120. We included this one just because the way we filtered through our sales was by year of construction initially, and so I think we did everything newer than 1990. And then second to last here, we have 288 to 294 Marion. They have the year built listed as 1956. And so we get all our sales from the Johnson report. So that was the year built that was listed in that. And this one sold for just under $200 per square foot. But this was renovated at some point between 2009 to 2012. We're not sure exactly when it was. This is just based off the street view photos. It jumps from 29 to 2012. And we do have some photos on the following pages. And then 593 to 595 Broadway. The year built listed in the Johnson report was 1929. And this property was renovated sometime 2014, 2015. It looks like they started work on it in 2014. And that was finished at some point in those 2 years. So these two were renovated before the sale dates here. So the year builds are probably a little inaccurate. I don't know what the effective year built would be on these properties, but they were renovated before the sale. And so again, the average we got here was about $240 per square foot. If we remove some of these outliers, just looking at Sherbrooke and Marion Street here, they're below $200, so we took those out. And with that, the average sale price was $280 per square foot. And then if we look at only the top three comparables, these three properties built after the year 2000, the average was $288 per square foot. So that's kind of where we were at and where we thought the value should be. And so our requested value does equate to $285 per square foot. So we think that does line up with the sales. And I will just say that our request is not based on the sales comparison approach. This was just kind of something we looked at. We did do it based on the income approach, which we'll get into in the next few pages. So starting on page 10, we have the photos of the comparable sales. So on page 10 here, these first two, these are two of the newer ones at 1770 Taylor and 2305 Portage. Page 11, we have the next two, so 1295 to 1305 Layla. This was built in 2004. This was one of the newer ones. And then the bottom of the page here is 940 Sherbrooke. So this is the one I mentioned that was built in 1991. The sale price was quite a bit lower, but it is still a medical office property. Page 12, we have the Marion Street one. So this is kind of what I mentioned. The photo at the top here was from May of 2021. So this was 1 month before the sale date. And then the bottom of the page, this photo is from April of 2009. So we can see that it was renovated at some point. And we know it was some point between 2009 and 2012. And then page 13, we have the Broadway property. So again, the photo at the top is from July of 2017. So this was 1 year before it sold. And we see that it's just been updated a little bit from the photo at the bottom of the page that was taken in July of 2014. On page 14, we have a map of the comparable sales we've used. So they're generally all kind of close. 2305 Portage is a little bit further out. Same with 1295 Leela. And I will just make note of this. I did kind of notice this as I was looking over it earlier this morning. We used AI to create this map, and it appears that everything got shifted a little bit further north. So I think these markers are just a little bit off from where the actual location is, but they'll still be the same distance apart from each other. So page 15, I guess this is where we kind of start to look at the income parameters that have been used. And so page 15, we look at the capitalization rate. So as mentioned, the assessed cap rate is 5.7. And so we've looked at these suburban office ranges for cap rates, and we have Colliers from 6 to 7%, CBRE kind of the same thing, and then Cushman, they have it at 6.25 to 7. I think this would probably be considered suburban A property, just given that's a newer year built. But based on this, we feel that the cap rate should fall somewhere between 6 and 7%. And so on the following page, page 16, we've used our sales comparables to try to calculate a cap rate in order for us to figure out what that cap rate should be within that 6 to 7 range. So these are all the comparable sales we identified earlier. And since we don't have the actual income from these properties, we have to estimate the NOI. And so to do that, we've used the typical vacancy expenses and operating costs from the City of Winnipeg guidelines. And then for the rental rates, we've chosen to use rental rates from properties that we consider to be similar locations and medical office as well. So for this first one, 1770 Taylor Ave, we've used a rental rate of $24.75 per square foot. And that's based off a lease that was signed at 1420 Taylor Ave. And that property is a chiropractor. For 2305 Portage, we've used a rental rate of $25 per square foot. And that's based off a lease that was signed for the property at 1721 Portage, which is a dental office. The Lila one is 2250. That is an actual lease from that property. So that is the actual income for that one. 940 Sherbrooke, we've used $24.62 per square foot. This was a lease from 88B Sherbrooke, and this is physiotherapy. Marion Street was $12, and we got this from Shindico Leasing Brochure. So it looks like they're trying to lease some space in there, and they're asking $12 a square foot. And then finally, the one on Broadway, we've used rental rate of $18.24 per square foot. And that was based on a lease that was signed at 387 Broadway. And this is a counseling and therapy office, I guess. And so that's how those rental rates and then the NOIs were determined. And so from this, we see cap rates that range all the way from 5.36 up to 18.31 for 940 Sherbrooke. So based on that, we obviously have some outliers here, but we did get an average cap rate of 8.89% and a median of 6.62%. But what we've done to generate our request is we've removed these outliers. So we removed the first one at 1770 Taylor Ave at just over 10%. That's obviously too high for a property like this. And then same with 940 Sherbrooke. We pulled that one out. And so when we remove these two, the average cap rate is 6.25%. And so that's what forms the basis of our request. On page 17, we've just taken a look at the operating costs. So again, the assessment uses operating costs of $8 per square foot, and that's for all office properties. But we would think that these medical office properties would have higher operating costs because they need more space for waiting rooms and stuff. And so we've just based this off the actual operating costs. So from the rent roll that we kind of talked about briefly earlier, they have $4.66 per square foot for the common area and $7 a square foot for the taxes. And so their total operating costs here on top of the $25 a square foot is $11.66 per square foot. And so we're requesting that for this property. And we do have the the entire page of this rent roll is on our page 20 for reference. So to summarize, on page 18, again, we believe that the current assessment value is too high and should be reduced. We're requesting operating costs of $11.66 per square foot and an increase in the capitalization rate to 6.25%. And from that, we do have a requested value of $854,000. And that does line up with the comparable sales we'd identified as well. And so we would ask the board to consider reducing the assessment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Spacek, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just a couple. I'm just referencing your page 6, so your requested assessment, and thank you for going over all that. The main question I have is why do you adjust to the actual shortfall amount, but you don't adjust the rental rate or the vacancy rate to the actuals? I just don't understand.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I mean, we pulled up leasing comparables similarly to you did, and just saw that the rental rate looked reasonable. So we didn't make any changes to that. And the vacancy, I mean, this is with it being an owner occupied, or not owner occupied, I guess, single tenant, but there are all kinds of single tenanted properties that still have the 5.5% vacancy. So that's just not generally something we request to have changed.
And did you compare the shortfall amounts to other properties to make sure it was in line?
No, we didn't. I mean, our leasing database is pretty much just leasing comparables that have been provided by you guys in previous hearings. So we don't have a whole lot of additional information on operating costs either.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Thank you. Nor do I. So is there a need for summary from either party on this matter?
I'm fine, thank you.
I think I'm good as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Well, I guess we've heard all the items scheduled today, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a nice day, everyone.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.